beautifuls, this is Naomi here, and welcome back to Seduce Me. We're with Matthew's route. Last episode, I kind of did want to see what would happen if we kept going with Matthew. He seemed to be like the kitty type childish, and he seems really super innocent. So I feel like he's gonna be really flustered. So let's see what's gonna happen if we say keep going. Oh, another heartbeat. We better have like super happy ending or something. I opened the opportunity and I was enjoying it as much as he was. I wanted more and I was going to let him keep going. I wanted to keep going. I leaned up and kissed him again. Matthew gasped against my lips, but I continued to kiss him back. I could feel him pull on the tail of my bow, releasing it and following his hand off from my neck. He moved the ribbon to his pocket. Before gently unbuttoning the top two buttons of my blouse. The desire in my body drove me insane, forcing a moan to escape my lips as he ran kisses from my lips down to my exposed neck. As he began to ravish my neck and shoulder in hot kisses, I leaned my head back and let a pleasureful sigh escape my lips. Matthew was ruthless in his passionate kisses on my skin. Matthew didn't stop touching and kissing me, making more moans and gasps rush out of my mouth into the open air. He may have been full, but he was as hot as I was. I couldn't even comprehend how much time we spent making out. I was lost in a pleasure that I didn't care. I'll call it sinful, but I didn't care. I loved it. His touch, his kiss, his heat. I desired it beyond anything at that moment, even as he lowered his kisses down to my chest just above my bra. My heart was beating wildly in my chest. Something about Matthew intrigued me immensely, but something made my heart quicken for him. It couldn't have been love, but it was too passionate to be less. What was it? However, I began to feel dizzy, seeing the ceiling start to spin almost wildly. I gripped Matthew's shoulders, trying to signal him to stop, but my mind faded to black before I could let out another sound. It felt good. I didn't care that I was blacked out. I felt warm and fuzzy in the darkness. I never knew indulging in that kind of passion would be that good. I now just waited to be awakened. I just waited to awaken, hopefully in a good way. My eyes eventually fluttered open, adjusting the sight. See if you can't skip because it's different. To the sight around me. I felt familiar silks underneath me, letting me know that I was in my bed. I slowly sat up, stretching from the tiredness that still lingered. I felt a very soft pain on my neck and shoulders, and I could feel my swollen lips pulse gently and healing. However, when I looked down at my body, I saw that my shirt had been pulled back and rebuttoned as if nothing happened between me and Matthew. I was just missing my ribbon. Before I turned to get out of bed, though, I spotted my ribbon on the pillow beside the one I slept on. It was tied around Simon Tabby in a nice bow, with a small note attached to it. I gently slipped the note from the tie and opened it to read it.
I'm really sorry. I didn't mean for it to go that far. Please forgive me?
It's so cute! He's like so innocent, because then he realizes, like, oh crap. I stared at the note, letting a small smile grace my lips. He went too far? I enjoyed it, despite the first time circumstance. It was cute, though, to imagine him thanking me for something we both did and enjoyed. I brought the note to the chest, letting the memories of our meeting flood in my mind. I indulged myself too, Matthew. I looked at the time out of curiosity. The large white numbers on my phone showed 5:31 p.m. Yikes! 4 hours of being knocked out, and I still feel tired? It was Sunday, so I allowed to sleep longer if I wanted to. Okay, now I can tell you guys. It was the reading, like what I just read was the exact same for Damien, except his name was Damien, not Matthew, in the chat log. And the only difference for Damien was it was a pen instead of Simon Tabby. And he said, I quite forgot what he said, but at the end of his note, he said Damien. So I'm guessing each note was different. So I might as well just go along with it now that I know that each note was different. I don't know what else is gonna happen. I kind of don't want like.
Yeah.
Okay, Suzu. Oh, of course I would skip way too much. Okay. Good thing I can mouse over. I should have done that from the beginning. I packed my bag and carried it downstairs towards the kitchen. As I entered the dining room, I saw a plate with eggs, toast, and bacon sitting on the table. A fresh steaming cup of coffee sat next to the plate with the sugar and creamer on the side. I walked to the table and couldn't believe what I was seeing. Who made this? As I spoke aloud, a small red note caught my attention. Have a good day. Yours. My heart skipped skipped a beat as I finished. I could tell it was from one of the boys. Maybe it was from him. I smiled before putting the note in my bag and eating up. The food was so delicious, I devoured every amazing bite. Oh, I thought that the note would have been. Oh, okay. Maybe he'll come at this part, because Damien came in at this part and told me his real name, so maybe Matthew will say the same. I quickly rushed to the doors, checking myself in the passing mirror. I wasn't wanting to impress anyone, but I still needed to look decent. Before I could reach the handle of the door, however, someone took my hand. Huh? I turned to see Matthew, who was holding my hand back with a concerned frown on his face.
My name.
What's your name, Matthew? I kind of quite forgot. Your name?
My true name isn't Matthew. I want you to know my real name. If something were to happen.
His true name? What did he mean? Why was he telling me this now? I remembered reading about a demon's name from the journal I read yesterday. If you knew a demon's true name, you could summon them to you, no matter where you were or where they were. Now I know why. Matthew gently pulled me into him and leaned close to whisper in my ear.
My name is Zekeru.
Zekeru, okay. As he said his name, I could feel it lock into my memory. Something in my head would make sure I would never forget it. Matthew pulled away and smiled at me, despite still carrying worry in his eyes.
If you are in any danger, call my name. I promise that I'll come and help you.
Thank you, Matthew. Of course I'll call for you. If I need to constantly say your name in my brain, though, because I quite forgot again. I stared up at Matthew, unable to say anything. I could only nod in response. Matthew smiled before releasing my hand and headed into the dining room. Something told me that name would be used eventually. And right on cue, Naomi drove up to the gates with Suzu waving me down. I rushed out the door and we headed to the school, talking about homework and the coming day. This is where we can skip because of that. Stand up and walk away. Yeah, we're doing that. What is with the symbol over here? Like, I don't understand. No, we're calling for Matthew because F you. All of a sudden, a bright purple light engulfed the room, causing the devils around me, including Iris and Alex, to cover themselves.
What the?
Should I keep? Yeah. Because the wind passed me, almost forcing me back. I covered my face with my arms, bracing myself and standing my ground. I tried to peek through my arms to see what was going on, but the light continued to shine bright. As the gust slowly started to die, the light began to fade, revealing Matthew with his hands shoved in his pockets and his hood up. Matthew. Malik slowly moved his arms from his face, taking in the sight of Matthew before laughing hysterically.
Are you kidding me? You summoned the crybaby runt?
Oh, come on, he ain't that much of a crybaby. I'm worse. Malik's laugh was cut short, however, stopped by his gasps of pain and the thudding of something embedding into flesh. I couldn't believe it, but somehow a knife had been stabbed into Malik's shoulder, causing him to grip at it in pain. I was taking my earring off because it's like piercing my skin because of the headset pressuring against my ear.
What the hell? A knife?
Hell yeah, a knife.
Next time, I won't miss your throat.
Wow. Malik snarled before ripping the knife out of his shoulder and tossing it to the ground. He quickly raised his gun and shot at Matthew, resulting only to stare wide-eyed at his target. In midair, a knife and Malik's bullet clashed and both collided to the ground between the demon and devil. Matthew chuckled and pulled a hand out of his pocket, revealing a handful of knives bladed out. Bam!
Too slow, Malix. Must suck being an old fart.
Malik was furious, charging at Matthew while shooting rounds at Matthew's shadow and covered face. It had like an air bubble. Matthew followed suit, rushing backwards, and tried his knives that he shot Malik's dead. Each shot was stopped by a flying knife, making multiple claims beat through the air. The remaining devils stared, trying to figure out what to do, help Malix or watch in silence. Iris, however, walked up beside me and crossed his arms as she watched with an amused smirk on her face. As Matthew backed to the far wall, he stood still, tossing knife upon knife at the incoming devil in his bullet.
Gotcha, you knife-throwing circus freak!
I saw a smirk on Matthew's face before he hopped up and flipped over Malix. The devil skidded to a stop, barely bumping against the brick wall. Matthew, however, didn't give Malix a chance to turn before shooting multiple knives into Malix's back.
Ah!
Bye-bye, Malix.
Matthew tossed the knife into the air and caught it before chucking it at the back of Malix's head. The knife sadly didn't get to meet its target, as Malix stepped out of the way and turned to face Matthew with a face of pure rage.
You little shit! You think you're all that?
Yeah, he thinks he's all that, honestly. Matthew brought out another knife and tossed it up and down in his hands, unchanged in his cool yet almost playful expression.
Little known fact, I just like having fun.
That's a load of bull, Matthew. You won't even fight me in your demon form. Why? Are you afraid I'll kill you as the demon scum you really are?
Demon form? I didn't understand. However, Matthew broke my thoughts from trying to figure that out.
Hey, mind closing your eyes for me?
Huh?
What are you babbling about now?
Before I can answer, the tension suddenly went from warm to almost ice cold. Then at that moment, something in the air changed. The air instantly went from frantic to still energy. What could have been described in tone as the color red quickly turned into a deadly mix of purple and blue, as everything began to blend together all at once.
You asked for it, Malix! Now you're gonna get it!
So now instead of purple and black, it's purple and blue. My eyes never strayed from Matthew's face. However, even as it changed, his eyes began to glow, and glow a bright golden color as a dark blue circle formed underneath Matthew's bare feet. I stared as Matthew's skin began to morph and shift, changing from human to something else. For some reason, I was both scared and incredibly intrigued to see this new form. Before I was allowed to see Matthew's new form, however, a pair of hands quickly covered my eyes instinctively. I reached up and gripped them, trying to pull them off. A voice stopped me.
It's me. Don't look.
Damien. I miss Damien. It feels so bad that I have to go through these other routes. I listened carefully and let the last two words linger in my mind. Don't look. Why? What was being hidden? I once knew, but something told me to obey Damien's command. I suddenly heard gunshots, making me tense up, but then I heard the sound of multiple stabs, followed by Max's scream of pain. The stabbing and splashing sounds of blood and flesh grew more frantic and in number. How many knives was Matthew using? Maybe it was better that I wasn't able to see.
Matthew, enough!
Almost instantly after James' command, the sound stopped. The only thing anyone could hear then was the dripping of blood.
I guess I went a little overboard, huh?
Malix is definitely dead, but you've lost your glamour spell.
Glamour spell? What did he mean? Why did Matthew sound so different? Why was this being hidden from me?
It's a spell that makes us look human.
I froze. Look human. They didn't have human forms after all. What do they look like?
Like demons.
As if Eric knew what Damien was talking about, Eric cleared his throat and spoke up, followed by the sound of a cork popping out of a bottle.
Well, not for much longer, Princess. Here, Matthew.
Oh, hey, you found my potion. Thanks.
I could hear the small clinking of glass being passed before hearing Matthew guzzle down a liquid of some sort. The feel of the air around me gently began to warm back up, insinuating that everything had been returned to normal. Finally, Damien moved his hands from my eyes, allowing me to see around me once again. The devils, including Iris, had fled. On top of Malix's body was a dirty sheet that was quickly turning red from blood. The wall behind it was painted red in blood, still dripping onto the floor and onto the blanket. The blanket looked like it was covering a mound of dirt instead of a body. The boys, however, had gathered around me, all of them, including Matthew, looking like nothing had happened. What just... I tried to speak, but everything zipped around in my head at the whole event. that I felt like speaking wasn't possible.
Let's just get you home, miss. There's nothing more to see here.
I could only nod. What had happened boggled my mind to the point of disbelief. I was second guessing everything, lost in a sea of what, and how, and when. As we walked out of the warehouse, I looked to Matthew for some form of sign that I wasn't dreaming. Matthew rode the back of his neck, walking forward as if to get away from what had happened. It was over. Malix was gone, and the boys were finally safe. A wave of relief ran through my body at the thought of never having to deal with that group again. At the same time, a pang of realization hit the back of my mind. The boys were only going to stay until Malix was defeated. That was our deal. As we approached home, I could feel something heavy weigh down my heart. It was late, but the boys led me inside and turned on the lights in the lobby.
Finally, we can relax.
It will be good to have some rest without devils breathing down our necks.
I'm just tired. Can I hit the hay early?
I think some sleep would be good for all of us.
I looked to Damien, knowing he could read my mind, and frowned. I didn't want him to know about my thoughts on the situation. Yeah, that sounds good. I wanted to just end tonight. Too much had happened, and I felt dizzy just trying to figure it out. However, Damien spoke up, stopping all of us from moving.
Should we be gone in the morning?
The air became still in tension. The realization of the situation hit the boys like a wave, forcing them to turn to me in curiosity. They had remembered their deal and were now awaiting me to decide their fate. I gulped face to face with the reality of the situation. The boys were leaving it up to me. They looked like they were willing to accept whatever I had demanded. It was only fair, though after all that had happened. I looked to Matthew, feeling my heart flutter in my chest. I didn't want him to leave, but would he ask to stay? I hoped that he would say no and ask me to stay longer. As if he knew what I wanted, Matthew moved and stepped to me. Taking my hand in his, he gently smiled at me and spoke.
I want you to know that you've been really generous to us, and I want to thank you for letting us stay here. But is it okay if we stay a little longer?
Of course, Matthew. Anything for you. My heart skipped while a large red blush ran across my cheeks. The boys stared at Matthew wide-eyed, but didn't dare to speak out. Matthew stepped back to give me space, returning to where he was. I moved my gaze across each boy, trying to make a decision. If they left in the morning, I would never see them again, and my life would return to normal. If I decided to let them go, that would have been for the best. No goodbyes, no delays. But did I want to? They have done so much for me in a small amount of time. I was so scared I was gonna click that. We're gonna let them stay. I wanted them to stay. I wanted him to stay. I merely smiled, staring at the man I had come to have feelings for before speaking at last. I would love it if you could all stay. The boys cheered tiredly, but nonetheless enthusiastically. I giggled at the sight. It was cute to see everyone so excited, despite the tiredness that ran equally through our bodies. Today was rough. Today was a rough day. My home is your home, as long as you can still help with chores. The boys nodded in unison, agreeing to the terms I had set for them. Despite the good situation, I felt myself slowly slipping into unconsciousness. Okay, can we
Oh! Yeah, sleep is...
I watched a happy smile grow onto Matthew's lips. He shared my excitement, knowing that we would be together longer. Who knew how long we would stay together? All I cared about was that I would be with him. The others quickly left to finally rest, leaving me and Matthew alone at last. My heart fluttered a bit as Matthew practically skipped closer to me in excitement. It was really cute to see him that way, so I didn't do anything but smile.
Thank you so much for letting us stay.
You're welcome, Matthew. I'm happy to have you stay here. I watched his smile brighten a bit before he cleared his throat and chuckled a bit. I didn't know if it was the tiredness or my growing attachment to him, but I felt myself sway a bit on my feet. However, Matthew's face made it clear that he wanted to say something else, making me forget that my bed was also calling for me.
Listen, about what happened at the warehouse.
No, it's fine. You did what you had to do. I understand. I had accepted everything that had happened and knew that Matthew had to do what he had to do. He was real, and he was someone I didn't want to be without, even if that meant nodding against my curiosity. Besides, I was too tired to explore that memory further. Matthew nodded before holding out a hand to me.
Come on then. Let's get you to bed.
Yay! I nodded before Matthew gently lifted me up into his arms like a bride and carried me to my room. I didn't want to leave his arms, leaning my head against Matthew's chest, but eventually I was slowly lowered to my bed and covered with my bed's covers. I was still in my school clothes. I wanted to say uniform, but I was too tired to strip or care. That saying still just makes me like, what? I looked to Matthew, fighting a yawn from escaping me as he gently ran a hand over my hair.
Have a good night, okay? I'll make breakfast again in the morning.
Okay. I nodded with a tired smile before watching him slowly stand and leave my room, closing the door. A wave of happiness washed over me as I laid in bed. I made a good choice. Sure, it would be hard, but I could tell that I would be able to manage it. Helping around the house and being with a man whom I was slowly starting to fall for would be worth it. This is where I could skip a bit. Cause F you, Diana, I don't like you. I'm just say Diana, F it. Damien pressed his lips together into a fine line. The other boys looked at me with a raised eyebrow. A girl named Diana came by last night.
Diana? Is she important?
She is effing important because she's gonna pop up right there. But I'm not gonna say anything to her still. I felt my heart flutter, especially when my eyes landed on Matthew. He kept close to me, glaring daggers into Diana. I could feel that he was completely adamant in his choice to stay. I don't know what, but I was incredibly happy to know he wanted to stay. Matthew walked over to me and held my hand gently, looking at me with a smile.
Everything will be okay. Promise.
Pinky promise? We got a pinky promise, Matthew. I nodded, feeling that he was telling the truth, or at least hopeful and comforting thought, and smiled back. Matthew gently leaned close to me and kissed my cheek, however making me blush and forget what I was thinking about. The sound of collective chuckles and playful snickers whispered through the air, making me blush even more, but the laughter stopped as Sam let out a oof, alongside a fluffy object colliding with his face. I looked up to see Matthew was glaring at his brothers, holding a fluffy anime plushie. He and I pulled away from each other as the sound of Naomi's car appeared. I quickly ate my food, said goodbye to the boys, and left, confident that nothing was going to happen. But then Mother effin' Diana wants to attack my school. I'm gonna keep quiet because we're gonna be we're gonna be the older chick. Oh shoot, Matthew. Suddenly Diana stopped in her tracks.
Matthew? Who is...
It then dawned on her.
Ah, one of the boys. Why don't you tell me which boy is Matthew?
I felt myself nodded in compliance. The fourth. Diana giggled in reply before letting go of my face and stepping back.
Really? The child? With you?
I nodded once again, but this time partly in my own decision to reply. Diana let out a sound that mirrored a cat's purr before stepping back away from me.
Alright then. Well, if it's the fourth son you're infatuated with, you should really rethink your romantic options.
What are you talking about? So disgusting that she has to kiss me.
It'll be okay. Just trust him.
I looked to Matthew unsure of what was going on, but I nodded. If this was the only way to learn, then this was my chance to know. Is it gonna be a different story or no? I don't think so. What the hell? Skip mode. After what seemed hours, I finally woke up, slightly refreshed. My body knew that if I slept any longer, it would be up all night, which was not part of the plan for the day. I rubbed my eyes and sat up, letting a soft groan escape my lips. In response, something beside my bed shuffled, causing me to look over. I didn't know what I was expecting. Beside me, sitting in a chair beside the bed, was Matthew, rousing himself up to see me awake. I smiled at him, seeing his slightly ruffled hair and tired eyes.
Oh, you're awake. How do you feel?
Fine. Matthew nodded before he looked down at my bed, taking my hand into his.
I'm really sorry. I'm really, really sorry.
Instead of me saying sorry, now it's Matthew. Matthew, it's not your fault.
No, please listen. I know that Diana and Malix have come after you because of us, so it's our fault that you're constantly in danger. If I hadn't convinced everyone to come to the human world, we would have never been attacked by Malix and hunted down and brought you in danger and...
I quickly reached over and put my finger on his lips, stopping him from going on any further. I didn't want to hear anymore. Matthew, it's okay. I wanted to help you out. I offered to let you all stay. Nothing is your fault. I gently moved my hand and cupped Matthew's cheek, staring at him with concern. I didn't want him to hold guilt in his mind about this whole ordeal. Diana was desperate and should hunt anyone for them. It wasn't his fault she was desperate enough to hunt them down. However, I grew curious. So, Matthew, you're a noble? Matthew looked at me and gave me a goofy smile.
I was once, but even if I had the title, I didn't really feel like a noble.
How come?
Well, I was the fourth noble son of the Demon Lord. With Eric and Sam ahead of me in case James couldn't fulfill his duties, there was no way I was getting the throne. So, I spent the majority of my time trying to make my mother happy. She was always unhappy.
Unhappy? How come?
Well, my dad was he married 4 different women. Each of us came from a different mother, and my mother was the last to be married and bear a son. The thing with succubi, though, is that they get jealous very easily.
So, what happened?
The other wives got mad and scorned each other. It wasn't violent, but we never ate together for a reason.
Oh, that's quite sad.
My mom, though, was too proud to have jealousy. She was the last woman the Demon Lord married, so she felt important. She felt that because he stopped marrying, she had the charm to stop his marrying spree.
Matthew let out a small smile, a hint of depression lingering in the breath he let out.
But then the Demon Lord took another woman and she bore him a son outside of wedlock. Damien. The wives, including my mother, were furious. In response, the Demon Lord had a spell cast on them, turning them into spiritual orbs.
What? That's horrible. Matthew nodded, pressing his lips together in both agreement and sadness.
They could never have physical form, and they lost all their powers. They became slaves trapped in the Demon Lord's castle. However, they were kept alive to make sure their sons grew up to be competent demons.
I'm sorry. Matthew gently shrugged, letting a small, nostalgic smile grace his face. His lips.
She taught me how to be a demon, though. Not just a demon, a grown, adult demon. I read books, I learned strategy, everything that James was doing under the Demon Lord's watch. Only, I trained with just my mother.
Oh.
She wanted me to surprise the Demon Lord one last time, and maybe take the throne away from James.
What the hell? Matthew then reached into his pocket and took out a small mirror.
Here, I'll show you.
You'll show me. Matthew handed it to me and sent a wave of blue mist into it. It began to glow until it enveloped the room in a bright light. When the light had subsided, I was back in the main hall of the demon castle. I looked around, feeling unable to move, but I could practically see everything as clear as I had before. However, my focus gathered on Matthew, sitting on the throne as if it was his, and reading a book. And this is where we're going to stop for this episode. We're actually finally getting to the part where we don't have to skip as much, because we're now learning about Matthew and why he is him. I don't know how to explain. I didn't think that their father would turn his wives all into just like little orbs, floating orbs, like and Zelda, the pixie thing. Sorry, Navi. That's right. Yeah, that's quite sad. So I hope you guys are enjoying this so far. Sorry, it's a bit boring. I'm not finding it quite boring because I love this game. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.